Hey everybody, Pastor Mark here. Welcome to Restore, Reflections on God's Grace for the end of your week. Today we're reflecting on the compassion of Christ, his heart of affection for sinners and sufferers. Paul Miller, in his book Love Walked Among Us, pointed out that all throughout the Gospels, Jesus is moving toward people. He sees, he feels, and he moves. He sees the crowd. He sees the grieving woman. He sees the leper. He feels compassion for them, and then he moves toward them. You see that in places like Matthew chapter 9, where Jesus saw the crowd and had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless. You see it in places like Matthew 14, where Jesus saw the crowd and had compassion on them and healed their sick. You see it in places like Luke chapter 7, where Jesus saw the bereaved woman and felt compassion and said to her, "Do not weep." The same word, Greek word for compassion, is used in all three of those places, and the word literally refers to something like the twisting of one's bowels. It's a way of talking about deep anguish. We might say gut-wrenching grief. The bottom line is this: Jesus saw need. He saw people. He saw hurting people. He saw the sick. He saw the weak. He saw the helpless. He saw those who were suffering. He saw sinners who didn't deserve his forgiveness and yet earnestly desired it, and he moved toward those people with a heart of compassion. So how do we know that his heart is full of compassion now, just as it was then? And we know because of what the author of Hebrews tells us in Hebrews 13:8, which simply says this: Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Dane Ortlund, in his book Gentle and Lowly, on which this series is based, writes this: "The same Christ who wept at the tomb of Lazarus weeps with us in our lonely despair. The same one who reached out and touched lepers puts his arm around us today when we feel misunderstood and sidelined. The same Jesus who reached out and cleansed messy sinners reaches into our souls and answers our half-hearted plea for mercy with the mighty, invincible cleansing of one who cannot bear to do otherwise." The heart of Christ is full of compassion, even now. How then does he move toward us? And the answer is by his Spirit through his word. Child of God, Jesus sees you in your distress at the end of this week. His heart towards you is one of compassion, and by his Spirit, he seeks to comfort you. So as you head into the weekend, be preparing your heart, even now, for Sunday worship by reflecting on the compassion of Christ toward all who seek it. I'll put a link to Dane Ortlund's book and to Paul Miller's book in the description below. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, be sure to do so at the bottom right of your screen. And if you know someone who might be encouraged by this message about the compassion of Christ, please pass it along to them. And may God restore to you the joy of his salvation.